Procrastination is not the sole purview of writers. Nay, it strikes in every corner. I was confronted by its effects last week several times during student conferences. Despite the fact that we've been writing Essay 1 for weeks, despite my repeated emails about the writing process and workshop dates, never mind my in-class harping about what to bring to workshop and such, a number of my students ran into the classroom on the due date as if their hair were on fire. More than 10 minutes late, their photocopies unordered, unpaginated, unstapled. Wild-eyed, they scrambled around the room, tried to pass out their essays, the groups in tumult, the class a jumble of slammed doors and clattering desks. Later, during conferences, when I spoke to them about preparation and planning, two of them separately but exactly said, "I'm really bad at procrastination." "Nay," I said. Well, I didn't say nay, but I wanted to. "Not bad," I actually said. "You're really good at it. In fact, an A for effort on that score." So here's the deal. We procrastinate because we think it's going to make us feel better. That novel to revise, that thesis to polish, that freshman comp essay to copy, order, and staple, that class to get to on time. Oh, I'll just wait and watch some television or pick lint off my wool blanket. That will make me feel better. Meanwhile, the burden of what needs being done gets heavier. We end up like my students, wild-eyed, hair aflame, professing to only be good at procrastination. There have been a few times I procrastinated in order to shield myself from heavy burdens. During my divorce, I had a terrible habit of throwing letters I didn't want to read into a spare closet in my rented duplex. Lawyers' notices, credit card bills, IRS missives. I just couldn't deal with all that. My thought was that I was a mess and not looking at all that terror would make me less of a mess. Not opening that mail, I seemed to be thinking, would mean that this personal turmoil would quiet down. But the closet actually started to throb and pulse and call me in the middle of the night. Finally, one weekend, I went in there and dealt with every single letter, one by one. And though I was much financially impoverished after the experience, I felt a lot better. I made a vow to open each and every letter that came to me and dispatch the reply promptly. The better feeling continued. It became my in and out policy. Whatever came in that needed a response, out that response went pronto. With writing, it's the same thing. I've long thought writer's block is merely procrastination. I don't have anything to say, we wail. We will just wait, we think, for an idea to come. But the truth is, we have to be in the place for the idea to come, and often it's when we are writing. So like the terrible pile in that once was my closet, I confront my writing every day. I sit down and start. I write the thing that needs writing. Of course, what I write may be terrible, but the act of writing makes me feel better, and eventually something comes. Always. An idea does arrive. Sometimes the idea that comes doesn't go anywhere, but if I'm in the daily groove of confronting my own stuff, something shows up. Keeping the closet floor clean, as it were, allows for more space, more room. And to be honest, I don't procrastinate with my writing. Maybe the last time was high school English paper, that paper on Billy Budd, 500 words. For instance, here I am writing this paragraph. It's 5:30 a.m. on October 28th. After reading the first draft of this piece, my editor asked for a personal paragraph about my own experience with the affliction. She wrote, "Is it worth sharing an anecdote or two on how you overcame writing procrastination yourself? I know in the end it's about getting your butt in the seat and your fingers on the keyboard, but did you have an especially tricky time of it with any of your novels or works? What happened? Why? How did you get past it?" The email came in while I slept, and my coffee isn't even ready, but I feel compelled to get to this writing. Why? I don't want it hanging over my head. I don't want to disappoint. I don't want to let it throb in the closet of my C drive. But to answer her, I overcome procrastination every day by doing what I need to do to save myself from myself. I won't have to consider her question all day long, because it would gain weight, starting in about an hour. In a panic, I might write back, "No time to think about it. Sorry, publish as is." How disappointing for us both. So how I get past procrastination is to not have it ever be an issue. I don't let my attitude develop steam, which attitudes can. For instance, yesterday, the editor of a renowned literary journal sent me full edits on a story she decided not to publish. She really liked the story, but for a couple of problems. When her edits came in, I sat down, read them over, and opened my story file. Yes, it was a bit distressing to see what really didn't work. But rather than argue with her in my mind, throw the whole thing away, or rant that she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, I revised the story. She was right. The great news is she asked to see it again in the spring. And I will tell you as an aside, she did not take that story, but it was picked up, and it was republished, and it was nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Okay, she was right. The great news is that blah, blah, blah. I sent it to my readers, let the story rest, tweak it again, but folks, it's basically ready to go back. I don't have to pull it with me through the holidays and into the new year, worrying about it, moaning and groaning. Open that email again in March and send it to her. Case closed. So no, I don't procrastinate in writing. Also, let's agree that being the one who doesn't meet the deadline or show up to the class in time or pay her bills or lawyer isn't a good calling card to the world. How we do one thing is a metaphor for how we do all things. As we try to sell our stories or meet new people or apply to new jobs, we don't want that label following us around like a sneaky shadow. You know what I'm talking about it. You have that late friend. You have that friend that doesn't do what she says she's going to do. You don't want to be that person. It can be true, however, that what we keep putting off is something we really don't want or need to do. My students have to write their essays. I did have to pay attention to my life and bills during my divorce. But perhaps that historical saga or memoir isn't actually what we need to be writing. Maybe writing isn't at all for us at all. Maybe it's building that shed out back or walking the Appalachian Trail. But finding our true desire is perhaps the topic of another column. But don't not figure it out. Don't procrastinate. The bottom line is not doing what we need to do serves no one. We put off tasks and responsibilities because we fear pain and suffering and failure. We fear having to face the truth. We fear having to walk out over the great divide, leaving the safety of nothing into the terror of the unknown. But eventually, the fear and the putting off of the fear becomes more terrifying than the actual doing of it. But by taking that tiny step out into what we are afraid of, frees us. The trick is to just keep walking every single